Thank you, Bri, so much. I'm so excited to connect today and hear more of your story. I know you and I just met like a month ago, maybe, and we instantly connected. Now we're going to a conference together, all the things. So I know that you have great energy and such an awesome story to share too. In your intro, I shared your journey to becoming a TEDx speaker, award winning businesswoman, and we all know that success isn't always overnight. So, was there a specific moment or experience when you realized you were meant for more or when success finally felt real to you?
Yeah, so I don't know if there's been like a moment or more. So I've been an entrepreneur for 18 years now. I'm about to hit 10 years in this business. And I still I mean there's still a huge part of me that feels like I'm like waiting for that day or that moment to come and hit. And I don't actually know if it exists. The business I had before this one I had for 8 years, and there was a moment in that business though where I realized that I was here for more. But again, it's almost that idea of like death by a thousand cuts, right? Where it wasn't one thing that happened that made me really realize it, but it was an accumulation of a bunch of little things that kind of led to a moment of being like, oh, actually, this is not the path that is feeling aligned and bringing me what I want, not to mention my clients. So in 2015, actually, I mean, we're literally, it was like March 2015. We're almost at the 10-year anniversary of that. I hired a business coach, got in a car accident, and meditated with some friends, wherein I got this very clear fashion isn't it, shut it down, walk away. And I closed my business overnight.
Wow.
And I mean, again, like it had been like leading up to that moment because everyone was shocked. And I was like, right, but behind the scenes, this has all already been going on. Like, I have already been questioning if this is what I want to be doing. I was already having panic attacks and depression behind the scenes. I kind of knew. And then I made the big decision to hire a coach. And it was the switch that flipped that was like, there's so much more available to you. And so 10 years ago, I closed my fashion label and started doing this. And again, 10 years in, I feel like I'm still kind of like waiting for that day to be like, you have made it. And I don't know if that day comes.
Yes. And I think, like you said, there's never that specific thing like, oh, I'm meant to do this and success is this. And it's never a straight path either. So share more about what you did with your fashion label and how coaching then became the thing or where you felt like called to do that.
So when I had my fashion label, I was the chief everything officer. I mean, all the way down to, yes, designing all of the clothes, but I was the bookkeeper and I was the website designer and I was the sales manager and I was doing everything. I was the publicist, I all this stuff. And over a course of 8 years, I brought my business to a very good place. I was dressing celebrities. I've dressed Tony Braxton. I've had dresses go to the Grammys. My stuff has been on The Bachelor. I had some really great successes. But the thing that was interesting, and especially relating back to success, is it would hit and I'd be like, oh my God, that's amazing. And then, okay, what's next? And I was never like the successes just never felt like enough in a way. And I was always moving the goalpost and always chasing the next thing and always, and I feel like, especially in an industry like fashion, like you're only as good as your latest collection. You're only as good as your latest celebrity placement. You're only as good as whatever, right? So I was getting a lot of those things, but it just felt like this endless well that was consuming me. And but on the other side, I had no plan B. I had 2 degrees in fashion. My grandmother had taught me how to sew when I was 5 years old. Like, this had been my entire life. So here I was around 30 being like, "Is this what the rest of my life is gonna feel like? Because if so, I'm out. I
Mm.
don't this sucks." That's now in the meantime, women had been coming to me for years asking me how I had done what I'd done with my business and if I could help them or any of these things. And I was like, absolutely not. I'm a fashion designer. Like, go talk to someone else. Yes. So I realized, I had grown up, my mom ran a business and then I was running my own business. I had a lot of business knowledge and I had done a lot. And so when it was revealed to me that I was shutting that business down, it was a week or two later that I came upon a bunch of emails that were like, "Hey, can you help me with my business?" From years ago, again, like years ago. And that's where I was like, "Oh, shit, I have actually done a lot in this business, and I do actually know a lot about." And not those online business coaches that are like, "I did this thing one time, hire me and I'll teach you how to do it too." I knew how to run a business. When I was 16, my mom would throw me the keys to the family business and be like, "Don't burn it down, we'll be by the pool." You know, like I was managing inventory. I was employees, scheduling. I was doing all that at the age of 16. Then you add in all the things that I had to learn to run my fashion business. And I'm like, wow, I actually have a really good holistic view of what it takes to run a business. And not just, having an Instagram presence, but like, how is your marketing fitting in with your revenue streams, fitting in with your ideal customer demographic, fitting in with all of the different pieces of your business so that you're creating this cohesive machine that's like functioning together and working without you having to be the one putting in all the manpower to get it to run. So I stepped into this 10 years ago, and within a year, I had a six-figure business. And it has really stretched me a lot. I did have to, in the first 9 months of shutting my fashion business down, really redefine what does success mean to me? Because success had meant fashion. So if I remove fashion, then I'm left with nothing and then I'm a failure. So if not for fashion, then what is success? And so when I redefined it, I was very clear my success is not tied to this business. If
Love
the
this.
universe told me tomorrow to shut down this business, I wouldn't be a failure because my definition of success is so much bigger than just the revenue streams that I currently have. So and then of course, since then, I've had many iterations of having to redefine what success has meant to me. But um, yeah, I hope that answers what your question was. But
Yes, definitely. And I want to go back to the thing you said before too, where it's you worked with these celebrities, you've had these awards, all of these accolades, and yet it still was like more, more, more. We're always chasing the next thing, not appreciating what we've done and all the amazing things that we're doing along the way because it doesn't feel like we're there yet. And even like you said, sharing behind the scenes of the depression and the anxiety and the panic attacks. Sometimes I think I know for me especially, it's hard because you see all of this perfect stuff on social media and all of the things that people are doing and being featured on. And when you don't have that yet, sometimes it doesn't feel like you're a success unless you're defining what success actually means to you. And it doesn't have to be tied to your business directly. So I love that you shared that because I think it just brings it into perspective and it brings it into reality. Even though you've had all these things, there's still the stuff behind the scenes that's happening, right?
one of the things I'm deeply spiritual, and I've studied a lot of like Abraham Hicks, and one of the things she talks about is like this conditionality. So if we're basing our success on things outside of us, then our success is always conditional because the external world is always temporary.
Mhm.
Always. The external world is always changing. So if something happens or if we lose a client or if a wildfire happens and our house burns down, or if like there's so many things around like, well, if having a car and a six-figure salary and all of these external things means you're successful, well, what happens if you total the car? What happens if the job goes away? What happens if you lose the house? What happens if the clients go away? Like then your success is always conditional. And so Abraham talks a lot about like living unconditionally and living so solidly within yourself that these external measures don't mess with the core of who you are. And so I've really done a lot of personal development work around what is the core of me and who is that person and what are the traits and elements and attributes that make me a success on a daily basis. The fact that There are days when I decide that I want to choose laying on the couch rather than showing up in my business, and that's fine. But the next day, I tap into my tenacity and my resiliency and I show up for my business again, right? Like that to me is a huge measure of success. Yes. Do I feel sorry for myself on some days? Absolutely. Am I sad or run down or emotional or whatever on some days? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But the core of who I am is tenacious, determined, focused, resilient. And so then I show up the next day and that's just who I am. And that to me is a huge measure of success, especially if you're like at the very beginnings of your business and you're showing up and showing up and showing up and showing up and you have no results. The first 9 months in my business, I think I made $5,000 total.
Hmm. Yes, I love that reframing. We have to focus on the personal development and our mindset. That is so, so, so important, especially as an entrepreneur. And I know I'm working on that and I need more of that and to continuously working on it because I don't think it's like, okay, I read this book or I did this thing and now I'm good, right? It's a constant work in progress. And like you said, just showing up is a big thing.
Absolutely.
And I think that leads me to the next ambition. I know so many of the women listening are ambitious, high achievers. It's so often celebrated, but it also can become all consuming and overwhelming. And I know that you help your women and clients with that. How do you help them pursue that success without overworking or like not showing up for the things they actually want to show up with and burning out?
Yeah. It is so important. And I find that, I'm also an ambitious high achiever, right? So like I very much fall into the bucket that all my clients fall into, which is probably why I can help them so well. It's like when one foot we have this hunger, this ambition, this excitement for all the things we're creating, and we want it done yesterday. And then on the other hand, we have just like life and being a human, and it takes time to turn thoughts and ideas into tangible physicalities. And so I'm always tempering with my clients the fact that, yes, we need to have an eye on the big vision. We have to have an eye on that. But if we're waking up every day and looking at that big vision and saying, I'm not there yet, and we wake up the next day and say, well, I'm not there yet. And we wake up the next day and say, well, I'm not there yet. What a lot of what I do, in fact, I just led my mastermind through this exercise today is like, how do we take that big vision and then break it down into what can I do today with what I have and where I am to take one step closer to that vision, right? And it's not about busy work and it's not about having 100 things on our to-do list. Literally just got done coaching this. It's like, what if you only had 3 priorities a day? And those priorities are not things like check my email, post on social media, da 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 da. Da. They're like the building block priorities. That if you were to put those 3 priorities together with tomorrow's priorities, 3 priorities, and the 3 priorities from the next day, and the 3 priorities for the next day for an entire year, you start hitting those goals that you're making for yourself, right? But what I find with a lot of ambitious people is we set the goal for December 31st and then we wake up on January 1st and say, oh, I'm not there yet.
But yes,
Instead of saying what are 3 things that I can do today to get closer to that year vision? And again, not the punch listy to do busy work shit.
yes,
But
yes.
actual, what are 3 working on my business items that I could focus on today that would take me one big step closer? Because when we look at what we can control and what we have access to doing in that moment, it helps us feel like we have more of a hand in bringing our goals to life rather than getting to the end of the year and being like, oh, I didn't hit my goals again. Like, what? I guess I'll just try again next year. And then again, like it eats us alive because we're never there and we're not focused on what we can do today with what we have. And there just exists this huge chasm and it is exhausting.
Yes. Oh, I feel you. And it's funny because I actually have this sticky note, which I know no one can see right now, but it's like the 3 things that if I do nothing else each day, I'm going to show up and I'm going to do these 3 things because that's going to make me feel successful. And like done something and it's moving towards my bigger goal, right? Because for me, I've never been your regular goal setter, I guess. Sometimes those 12-month goals, they just feel big and unreachable and like that's 12 months away. I'm better if I set 30, 90, those types of goals. I just have more motivation to go for them. I don't know if you see that a lot, but I know that for me, having these three things has helped me a lot
Yep.
and has helped me to not be overwhelmed in my business. So often, like, we're doing all the things. And I know that delegational things are important, but if we can scale it down to like, what can I do today? That's huge. And it helps so much. So I love
Well,
that you brought that up.
and so what the system that I use does have that year goal, right? But
Hmm.
then literally exactly what I taught today, and I call this my goal getter system or my get shit done system, is we take that year goal and then we look at, okay, what do I need to focus on this quarter so that I know that by the end of March, I'm well on my way towards that year goal, right? And then we take that quarter and say, okay, well, if this is where I'm going to be at the end of March, what do I need to focus on in January to know that I'm well on my way towards that year goal? And then even further, taking the January one and saying, okay, well, if I know that's where I want to be at the end of January, what am I focused on this week one of January? Okay, well, if I know that that's my focus this week, what are my three priorities today? And when I combine my three priorities from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday all together, that leads me to my week. Well, then if I combine week one, week two, week three, week four, that then leads me to my month. Well, and then if I combine January, February, and March, that leads me to my quarter. And then if I combine quarter one, two, three, and four, that leads me to my year. Right. And so that's where, so again, so many people wake up on January 1st and say their goal is $100,000 a year. And they're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to make $100,000 today. And it's like, well, on January 2nd, you don't need to make $100,000. I just did the math. If you 365 days out of the year, if you want to hit $100,000, it's $273.97 a day. So instead of waking up every day and being like, oh, I don't know how to hit $100,000, you wake up instead and say, well, how could I bring in $273.97 today? And again the next day and the next day. And then you combine all those and voila, by the end of the year, you've hit your goal. And so again, taking the focus, yes, have an eye on the prize, be motivated by what you're working towards, but then pull it back to what can I do today with what I have and where I am to create $273.97 or whatever your goal is.
Oh, I love that because it breaks it down and it makes it easy and manageable and simple while also still getting you to the big goal. So when they're planning these goals, do you specifically tell people plan for your week, just plan for your day? Like I'd love to know more about your process if you don't mind sharing.
Yeah. So with that, like the goal getter system that I have, I actually made worksheets. And so there's a yearly worksheet, the quarter worksheet, the month worksheet, the week worksheet, and a day worksheet. And so I do recommend because some people will have their year one and then they'll be like, okay, I'm going to plan quarter one, two, three, and four. Well, what happens in quarter one if you overshoot your quarter and you accomplish more than you thought you were going to accomplish? Then quarters two, three, and four, all the plans you have for them are null and void. Or what happens if you undershoot it, right? Then quarters two, three, four, also null and void. So I don't like to plan all of the things.
Yep.
I like to say, okay, what's my focus for this period of time? And then where am I going from there? Now, for the week one, right? Like the day one, I will flow with it and say, okay, Monday, here's where I want to be by the end of the week. What are three priorities to get done today to help get me there? There are some things where I'm like, okay, I know that, for example, I have to get this video filmed on Monday because I need to be able to assign to my assistant on Tuesday the rest of the steps,
Mhm.
right? So there are some logistical things where I'm like, okay, if I know that I have a hard thing that I need to hit, then that obviously dictates kind of what my priorities are. But I prefer more to flow. In fact, I was telling my clients today, I was like, do not sit down and plan out like have your 5 daily sheets, don't sit down and do them all in one sitting. Because again, on Monday, you may overshoot, you may undershoot, then the rest of the week planning is obsolete.
Yep.
So I really kind of encourage people to set the marker of where you want to be by the end of the week. But each day you're showing up and being like, okay, I'm here in relativity to that marker. So how do I get one step closer today? And then you wake up the next day and the next day and the next day and do the same things.
I love that. Okay, I'm gonna need to steal that for myself and probably get my hands on your goal setting sheets. I was laughing today because I have this beautiful planner on my desk that it's still blank. Um, because so many of them just don't work with my brain in the way that I do things. And
Yeah.
so finding a system that works for me is important. And I've just, yes. So I
So
know that.
I'm lucky. I'm a physical planner person as well. This sits open on my desk all the time. And so it's like I have my month at a glance. And so I get to put what is my priority this month? And I really define those. Well, then it doesn't necessarily have this in it. But for at the top of each week, I put down like, okay, what is the focus for this week? So I always have that focus for this week. And I'll go back and say, okay, this month my focus is this. So that means this week's focus needs to be this. And then I'll say, okay, based on those focuses, what are 3 things that I could focus on today that are top priorities to help get me there? Right. So I use a daily planner. It doesn't have all the things I need in it, but I find little places and ways to add in. I mean, it doesn't have quarterly in it. But again, I find ways to figure out. So
So that could be a product for you. You could create your own planner, right? I would buy it.
I've thought about it. Although this one, I will say, this is a dear, dear, dear friend of mine. It says plan, attract, manifest on it.
All right, I'm
Uh,
writing it down.
and her company is called Please Notes. And well, one, I love her. And two, I love her products. Like the feel of her. A girlfriend was over here yesterday and I was like, just touch this journal, just touch it, just feel it. Like it's so good. I love her stuff and I love supporting her. And hers are undated planners, which also I really like because I think I started this planner in June. So I don't
Yeah,
know. It's
I do
or
like.
if for whatever reason I take the entire month of December off, then I just don't put that in my planner and it goes from November to January or whatever. I don't know. I like it. So
Okay, I love that. All right, total squirrel. I'm sorry. I tend to
no
like
worries.
on track. But I think it's so useful and so helpful because we all have different ways of setting goals and our way to get there. But simplifying it, I think, is sometimes the really hard part so that we're not either feeling like we're not successful or we're burning ourselves out trying to do all the things.
Well, and I think you mentioned it earlier too, this idea of simplicity in our businesses. And the thing that we have to remember, and I know that I'm have ADHD 100% for sure. And my brain loves the dopamine hits. Like, oh boy, does my brain like the dopamine hits, right? And so things like checking my email or checking Instagram or posting online or all the things that get us immediate feedback in our businesses tend to be the things that we focus on because again, it gives us that like reinforcement. And the truth is, and I say this to my clients all the time, it is the most boring shit that's going to be the things that get you the results you want in your business. Right. And so simplifying things down. And like you said, okay, if I just have these 3 things that I do every day, a potential client outreach, a request for a referral, I don't know, a past client testimonial or whatever, right? Like if I just get these 3 things every day, those are going to be the things that actually bring me results in my business, but they're boring. So I think it's really important to remember that it is the simplest, boringest shit that usually gets us the results that we want and not the awards, the accolades, the press mentions. Like none of my awards have ever made me money. None of like barely any of my press mentions. I've been on Good Morning America and the Today Show. My press placements have not made me money. Like all this shit looks shiny and fancy. I'm like, oh, it must be amazing. And don't get me wrong, it is very nice to be acknowledged for the progress that I have made in my business and the impact I've made in my business. But at the end of the day, it is not what pays your bills.
Mm, mm. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's helpful for so many. I notice for me, and I think it's funny, I'm laughing that again, nobody can see it, but the three things on my list are mindset, energy management, doing something every day. And for me, that's like going on a walk. I need that time, right? When it's 20 below, that might be a different story. I have to work out or something.
Not a fan.
Nurturing current clients or, those people that are already in my circle, right? Nurturing them in some way, whether that's sending an email, a Voxer note, a message, just encouraging them, and then a sales activity. And it doesn't have to be like, will you buy my stuff? It's just reaching out to somebody, doing the referral thing that you talked about, just connecting. And yes, I think I'm like you were like ADHD, those dopamine hits, that's the fun stuff. But really, what's moving the needle forward are those three things.
Yep.
So I'm glad you said that too, because I feel like it's so, so, so important. All right. So continuing, and I think a big part of this too is you have this sign on your wall, the big goal energy. And I absolutely love that. I think it aligns with everything we're talking about. And that's what you teach and what you're talking about. So when we refer it to our messaging and telling our story and sharing that, how do you feel that makes you stand out or brings an opportunity? How have you found that telling your story brings in the right people for you?
Yeah, I actually just coached a client with this yesterday. She's getting some of her first press placements, and she was like, "What do I tell as my story?" What I usually recommend to do, and what I feel like I've done, and I coach my clients to do, is remembering that your story is not about you. So it is about you, but also when we're telling it, it's not about you. It's telling your story in a way where your ideal customers listen to it and they're like, holy shit, that's me. Or I feel so seen. Or like, oh my gosh, Bri understands me in a way that no one else understands me. And so, it's taken time, but I know my clients pretty well in and out. The overworking, underliving thing, like, was my story and now it's my client's story. And so I integrate what I know about my clients into my story so that they feel seen and understood in a way that they're like, Bri is the one that needs to help me. I think that there's a lot of kind of cookie cutter approaches out there, and I personally am not a fan of it. One, I'm what is it? The Enneagram. I'm the Enneagram 4, which is like the breaking all the rules one. In fact, I'm
Yeah.
about to post an Instagram today that's like, I want to break every rule there is. Um, there's a lot of cookie cutter things out there. And the truth is, if your story sounds like everyone else's story and your branding looks like everyone else's branding and your messaging sounds like everyone else's messaging, there's two things that happen. One, you're going to blend in with the crowd and your business is not going to last terribly long. And two, it's probably not authentic to you. And people nowadays, transparency is key. And if someone works with, I was just talking with some friends Monday about this bait and switch approach that this one coach had, where they're like, she sold herself to be this way and she turned out to be another way. And not only did I not get any value out of it, I asked for a refund and now I can't recommend anyone to work with them. So people are going to find out who you are. Whether you include it in your messaging upfront or not, people are going to find out. And what if they don't resonate with that? Like, wouldn't you just rather someone knows upfront? I'm super clear. You know who I am within minutes of meeting me. You either like it or you don't like it. At the end of the day, I don't care because I am me. My messaging is me. My branding is me. And I would rather have you know upfront that it works for you or doesn't work for you rather than having to go through the rigmarole of realizing later it doesn't work for you and then have you be regretting that you invested and then possibly saying things like it's just not a good strategy for a long-term business. So the more that you can be authentic to yourself while also speaking to your customers, because again, it's not fully about you, the better. And it's going to attract the right people and it's gonna be just a much easier pathway of customer facing, engagement and interaction.
Yes, I love that you share that. And I was actually just in my program yesterday, we were focusing specifically on their website copy because so many times our business has grown and evolved, and we look at our website and it's like, that does not portray who I am. It doesn't sound like me. It doesn't feel like me. And just being authentic because I don't know how you feel about this, but there's so much on social that just is so irritating me because I can see that people just copy and pasted it from AI. And like AI is a great tool. I use it every day, but we still have to be human and sharing our story in a way that aligns with our ideal client. And we were talking about our About page. I'm like, not actually about you. Like it is, but it's not actually about you. It's about them and
Yep.
making them feel seen, just like what you said. Yes, we can share all the things that we've done and we're doing, but it's really about them and how we can help them get to where they want to be. Right.
Yep.
Because that's what's going to resonate with them. And I think it's so important. I also had a conversation with someone yesterday. They're like, I don't know why nobody's interacting with us. Nobody's engaging with us. Nobody's coming. And I go to their website and it's all about what their product is and how awesome they are. But nowhere does it show what they're actually doing for people, the results they're getting. It's not connecting. It's just like me, me, me. And so just simple shifts in that messaging can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And I'm also firmly, like we talked about earlier with the personal development, I keep wondering like when my messaging is going to quote unquote be there. But, like I feel like in 10 years, oh my gosh, I don't know if I should say that I wish I had kept track of this or if it would just piss me off a lot if I had kept track of it. But like the amount of times, and I say this right now, well knowing that I'm also in the midst right now of redoing my website. Like
Yeah.
the amount of times I've had to shift and update and evolve my messaging, which I mean, I think as we were talking about the personal development, I am constantly evolving and up leveling myself.
Yes.
And so as I'm changing and up leveling, my business is changing and up leveling, and it just constantly requires that assessment of, is my messaging still resonating? Is it still on brand? Are customers, resonating with it? Are they responding to it? I feel like it's just a never ending, as we were speaking earlier, black hole of like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I feel you. I actually was just working with my business coach this morning and I've been feeling like really stuck lately and just being completely open. It's just something isn't clicking. And I know that I'm always telling my clients, you have to like hone in on who you really are speaking to. Yet I didn't feel like I was doing the same. But I think it's also so hard to look from the outside in too and see the big picture. Like I have this vision, I have the mission, but how am I really honing in? And I had such a huge aha of who I really want to be serving and how I really want to be showing up. And it was so easy, but it wasn't, right? It's
it's
like
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 I
having
always,
another person help.
I always joke that, like, when I was in fashion and even now, it's like the cobbler whose kids have holes in their shoes.
Yeah.
Like, I still have a pile of clothes that I someday think I'm gonna get fixed. I just, hemmed this pair of pants that I've had in my closet for 4 years. They don't even fit anymore. I tried to put them on the other day, and I was like, "Why did I spend all this time hemming them?" Like, I should have done it 4 years ago when they actually fit me. And same, where I'm like, I can put together the most brilliant strategy for clients in an hour. And like, when do I actually sit down and do the same for my business? Right. Like, it's so easy for me to see, like, here's what you should be talking about in your messaging and like all this stuff. When's the last time I sat down and did it for my business? Right. Like, it's so hard for us to do what we do for other people for ourselves as well.
Yes. And then having this big aha today, of course, my brain immediately goes, so, oh my gosh, now I need to rewrite all this and do all this and do all that. And she's like, no, no, you don't. And so it's just being able to like breathe, take a step back, focus again, circling back. What are those three things that you can do today? And then, showing up online, being like, this is who I am. This is how I can help you. And this is what we're going for. Not giving a shit about what anybody else thinks or what it might look like, but that you're actually showing up to be the person you want to be so that you can be successful. So I think just bringing it back full circle, how do you define success and how, you know, again, going to your like big goal energy, what does that look like? How can someone cultivate it and live it out when they're feeling stuck or uncertain?
A huge part of my success is being in integrity. And so that's being in integrity with myself, being in integrity in my relationships, being in integrity with my vision and my mission. And again, if you notice, my vision and my mission could change. Like my vision and my mission are not my measures of success, but it's being in integrity with whatever my vision and mission are. Because again, the vision and mission are external things that we're wanting to bring forth. Well, what if I never bring those forth? Like, what if they never are materialized or realized? Then am I a failure? Is my life a failure? So again, it's that like integrity piece. And so I'm kind of constantly in this navigation of like, where am I in integrity with these things? Where am I out of integrity? And so I'm always also assessing what's working and what's not working within those. So integrity is a huge piece. One of my top core values is passion. And so one of my measures of success is truly, truly, truly being in love with what I get to do on a daily basis. And if I find myself just not being in love with an element of it, whether it's that a client and I just aren't clicking or a revenue stream that just feels icky or I'm very quick to make changes or let a client go if it feels like we're both not in alignment. So integrity, passion, and I'm working on this one. I've even manifested an injury to help me work on this one is joy and just really finding things in life to kind of sink my teeth into and really truly enjoy. Um, I think I, like a lot of other people, get kind of distracted by the to-do lists or the accomplishments or the like that kind of stuff. And I had a woman on my podcast last year and the whole conversation was around non-achievements.
Oh,
How do we find joy and enjoyment of life in the non-achievements? I'm currently reading The Artist's Way, and it's all about kind of tapping back into your creativity and that inner creator within you. And you write 3 pages a day and you take artist dates every single week. And you just really, again, like sinking back into the enjoyment of life because for so long, like we mentioned earlier, I was overworking and underliving. And now have built a life that I'm really committed to overliving. And now I'm developing the muscle of actually enjoying it and being present with it.
mm, that resonates so, so much for me, especially being present. That is something that I am working on. I have 4 little boys and not thinking about work, just being able to take that time and enjoy it and be present. And it doesn't have to be big things, right? So, um, that really hits me. It hits home for sure, and that can be a measure of success. So,
Mm.
thank you, Bree, so much for sharing all of your insight and your wisdom. I know I'll have it linked in the show notes, but where do you want people to find you if they connect and resonate and want to work with you?
Yep. So the best place to find out about my current offerings and just who I am and all that stuff is my website, which is my name, Bri Seeley, BRISEELEY.com. If you actually just want to chat with me or connect with me or send me a message or something, Instagram is probably the best platform to do that on. And my handle's Bri Seeley. You're welcome to find me on any and all of the other social media platforms at Bri Seeley. But I am committed this year to spending less and less and less time on social media. So there are some platforms that we post on that I do not log into. So it's quite nice. It is very much a change. Thank you to all the horrible men doing horrible things with all of our social media platforms that have inspired me to pull back and walk away. So Instagram is the best. If you want to reach me, Instagram's the best place to do that.
Okay. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Again, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Haley.